Hey everybody, welcome back to Easel Does It Studio Painting. So today we're going to do it in the portrait mode. I want this to be a very, very light kind of pastel. We're going to do another seascape, but I want it to be extremely light colors. So on my messy palette, I've got a big bunch of titanium white, cobalt blue. This is the bright aqua green, burnt sienna, no, raw sienna, burnt umber, and a little of unbleached titanium. So we're going to start with those colors first. And we're going to bring the sky down to right about here. Like if you cut it in thirds, kind of, that's how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to start by putting white on first. So I am going to wet my brush before we get started so that it just kind of helps the paint flow a little bit better. And I'm just going to, with my wet brush, just going to put a little bit of water on there so we can, and if I get something out of my brush, just so we can get that paint to spread nice and evenly. So like I said, I'm going to go in with just white first. Now this is also a technique I have never done before. Because you guys know, I do everything with you guys. So before I forget this time, I just want to let everybody know everything on my website is on sale. So if you wanted to get one of my paintings and it was a little too expensive, now's the time. You could get it at a discount. And everything is free shipping on my website. So there's also that. All right, so now we've got our white. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that cobalt because I want this to be very, very light. I mean, almost to the point that we're not seeing it, if that makes any sense. And this part is a little too dark, so I'm just going to add a little bit more white, and we're just going to slowly kind of bring that up through. So yeah, when I said light, I meant like really, really faint colors. So I'm gonna just grab a little bit more in through here. And the bottom section is not gonna be quite as light. So I just added a little tiny bit of that blue just so we can get a hint up in the top. All right, so that is looking good. I'm gonna rinse this out. And my last painting, the oil painting, I ended up changing it. And I'm just trying to get that more blended. So I will put a picture in the community tab. All right, clean that again. All right. Now I might end up adding a little bit of the darker blue. I'll see how this starts looking. I'm just going to pick up that bright aqua green. And let's just kind of, because it's just going to be sky and water out here. I'm not putting anything else at this background. And then we're gonna just slowly, and I will go back in and add some lighter to this. And I'm really liking doing them with the borders on them. I don't know what it is about that, but I really am liking it. All right, I'm gonna start grabbing a little bit of white. And I think my beach is gonna kind of come lower here and a little bit higher here. So let me just get this kind of blended out. I'm gonna pick both of the colors up on my brush now as we're starting to get closer to the shore. Add some more of that green, because in order to get the waves to look, we need that dark color underneath. So I'm just gonna wet my brush just a little bit so we can kind of blend this. And I wanna make sure my edges are covered. I'm gonna try mixing in a little bit of this blue into this water. Give it a little bit of mixture in the water. And let me pick up that green and the blue together. And I don't want this to be like an even line. All right, now I'm gonna pick up more white. So it's almost kind of like, the ocean's coming in at an angle. Whether I can pull it off and get the look that I want, I don't know. But we're gonna see. All right, so that is looking kind of good. So this is going to be a very easy one, guys, that you guys can paint. Very easy. I'm keeping this very, very simple. I'm just going to go back with a few more bits just to kind of get a little bit more movement out in our waves. So I'm just picking up both the blue and the white, the green. So I still have a little tiny bits of pieces of canvas that they're just not covered, and I want all my canvas covered. And just start bringing that down. And I'm just adding both those colors. Sometimes I'm getting a little bit more of the the white than the green, and then other times I'm getting the green. But this is, we're going to cover over this area with our brown. So that's going to give us that kind of wet sand look underneath. All right, that is looking good. And this is a 16 by 20 canvas. All right, before I go too much further, I do want to put a little bit of a light source up here. So I'm just gonna take my filbert brush and I'm just gonna wet it and then dry it off and just pick up some straight white. And let's see, we'll put that right here. So we've got like moon, sun, whatever. And I do want to put in a few like puffy clouds in the sky. So I don't know if you can see, but I've got a hint of that green kind of color in there. And I'm gonna do the same thing with a little bit of the blue. Just, you know, and I want these to be somewhat light as well. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more of that kind of blue color underneath. And then I'm just gonna go over with a little bit of the white. Because I do want them to stand out a little bit. So I might have went a little too light on my background, but that's okay. And we're just gonna blend that out just a little bit. And I'm just picking up pure white. Okay, so they are showing just a little. Just nice little puffy. Just a little something. All right, so there's just little floaty things up in there. Because that way I can brighten an area on the water. All right, now we're gonna go back to a big brush. And I'm going to try going in with just the raw sienna. because again, I want the sand to be somewhat light. And I don't want it to be an even line across. You know, until we get to maybe over here. So I'm going to go in with that unbleached titanium. And then once we can get that dry, then we can go back over with some of the blue and bring that, well, that green, and kind of bring that back over the water. I mean, over the sand. I definitely want this area to be lighter. And then we're going to put some rocks and some tall grass in the foreground here. I'm going to grab just a smidge of that darker brown just to give us some lights and some darks. But again, I don't want to go, I want this to be a very, very light painting. But we obviously got to have different colors in our grass, in our ground, if we want it, to show. I'm just picking up a little bit of that dark brown, especially in here, because I'm going to have some shadows, so... and it goes good when you paint with a bigger brush. I think that's one of the reasons that that I like oil painting so much, is because you use more big brushes than you do small. All right, I'm just going to get this a little bit darker down in here. Just wet my brush just a little bit so we can just get those colors to move a little bit and blend in. Because then we're gonna have like a big wave here anyways. All right, I'm gonna wash this brush off good. And I just take it and squeeze it like this, and then I wipe it on my paper towel. All right, so I'm gonna pick up the green and the white, and we're gonna start getting the water over the sand. So by putting it like over and pulling it back, it gives that illusion that you got the water is coming up over the sand. And then we're gonna put, a little bit of not a big crasher, but a little bit of something coming in here. And you notice I'm trying to stay straight with, even though my water is going at a hill, my lines are all going straight across. That is very important for it to look correct. All right, I'm liking that. Now, I want there to be like a already crashed wave in here. And then, so let's see, what am I gonna use? Do I have like a little scrubby brush? All right, I'm gonna try this. This is just a little tiny, like flat bit blender brush. And I'm just going to pick up some white. And I'm gonna just start at one of the corners so that if it doesn't work, I can just kind of blend it out. Because you know how like when a wave is like crashed, it's got that foamy little bit. That's kind of what I'm trying to get this to look like. Whether I can do it or not is another thing. All right, I'm gonna keep going. I can always paint over it. So I'm just kind of getting a little bit of, you know, where that little like foamy bit would be pulling back. And that way we can set that little wave into the painting. And then I'll have to step back and look to see if it looks okay. I'll probably end up having to make it brighter, but I just kind of wanted to see if I can get the look I have in my head. Let me get a different brush. These are just like makeup brushes, guys. And I think this is definitely gonna, and I'm just gonna go into the white. Let's see here. You know, it's like this wave is already crashed, you know, into the ground here. And then I'm going to pull water lines. All right, so I think we're looking kind of okay with that. And I'm just taking the wet brush and just trying to drag some of the bottom out. And then we can go back in with some of the darker colors. Let's see. Let's see. All right, that's not too bad. Okay, I'm gonna wash this again. And I'm gonna take I'm gonna try this fan brush. We haven't tried this fan brush yet. So I'm gonna pick up a little bit of the green and a little tiny bit of that white, and let me wet this first. All right, so we got the green, we got the white. A little bit more white here. Okay. And let's see. So for light sources coming this way, so we would have a little bit of all right, that's okay. Block that down, maybe it'll stop moving around. All right, I'm gonna take some of the unbleached titanium, and I'm just gonna kind of go over this area. All right. And we are gonna, let's see. Let me take my, I want a big filbert brush. And I gotta clean this one. I didn't clean it good last time, so let me see here. What do I have? Oh, here's one. All right. So I just wet it. Oop. And I'm gonna take some of the white and we're gonna water that down. And this is what I mean when I say watered down, like really drippy. And then I'm gonna wipe the excess off my brush. And let's see. I'm just trying to move some of these little areas and get a little bit brighter. I'm gonna actually take a little bit more white. And that way it kind of looks like the foam, but you got to leave some darker spots in the middle there. So I'm going to just take a little bit more white, just brighten it up in a couple of little spots. All right, so I'm thinking that's looking good. So we pretty much got like our background done. Now I need to, and I'm going to use the same filbert brush. Hang on, let me open my soda here and have a drink. Yeah, so I don't know why my videos have been taking so long to load on my page, guys. I apologize. They've just been taking forever. All right, I'm going to take some of the dark brown and the unbleached titanium, and I'm going to make like a medium color. And that's going to be our rock, our couple of rocks that we're going to put in here. And then we are gonna, we're going to put some highlights on, but I want to get some, a little bit of a shadow underneath. And we're going to put another one. Let's see. And let's see. And I do want a little bit of darkness down in here. You know, because we definitely would have some shadowing going on. Now I'm just going to take the unbleached titanium and we're going to have to make a different color. And I'm going to use a smaller brush for the highlights. So let's take brown and white. And that will give us more of a beige kind of color. I don't even know if that rock's gonna show. But I do want these two rocks in the front to show. Make up a little bit more. And then obviously we've got to go back in and put some dark in there. So I'm just adding a little bit of the unbleached titanium. Now we're going to go back in just some brown. I'm going to actually, I was hoping to be able to get enough of a contrast without having to really add too much dark to the painting, because I wanted this to be a very light kind of pastel painting, but all right, let me just get my shadow in and then we'll put our rock. All right, so we'll just do this. We're gonna just kind of cover over that. And let's get this little area darkened up a little bit more here. I might end up moving to my palette knife. I don't know why I struggle with doing rocks with a brush. I don't know why, but I do. I'm going to make it dark, and then we'll highlight. So maybe if I just get my rocks in the dark, and then I can use my palette knife to like highlight them. And there's going to be stuff coming out of here, so I'm not too worried about in here. I do want to make it a little bit darker, though. So I'm just kind of scumbling whatever's left in my brush. And that way there it will give a little bit of movement. We can always go back over with something else once we get the grass pieces in. All right, let me all right, I'm gonna take my palette knife and I'm gonna mix the dark brown, the sienna, and the unbleached titanium. And I'm just going to so instead of this being 2 rocks in the front, maybe it's going to be 1, and then that other one will be a second rock. So I'm just kind of see how my rock, they just look better with a palette knife, guys. I'm going to add a little bit more white to that. And I'm just adding a little bit more of that dark down at the very bottom here. All right. Now I'm just going to fix that little area there. So I'm just going to and then I'll just take a little white. All right, so that I'm liking. I'm just trying to get that darker, like, edge off. Okay, whoa. Hang on a second, guys. I just spilt my water. Hang on. Okay, guys. Well, that was a first. And you saw it here first. Wow. All right. So my palette is a little wet here. But that's okay. So I'm just going to take some white paint. And I'm going to... give like a little bit of just a little bit of waterline in there. I'm going to use the little part of the knife, and all right. Goodness gracious sakes alive here. So those of you that are new to following me, if you don't follow me on my other channel, I am very, very klutzy. So, yeah, there's that. Okay, so now, I'm trying to think what color. I do want to add a little bit of color into this. So we're going to add some of this phthalo cyan green. It's almost like a bluish, kind of greenish. And I'm going to use an angled brush. And what I want is, I want some tall thingies coming out of here. I don't know if you call them grass, wheat, whatever. And then they're going to have like little, almost like, you know, wheat that's kind of starting to break up on the ends or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for here. All right. I am gonna do I'm gonna see how this green looks. Let's see, we'll just start right here. And we'll pull down. So, because that rock is still a little wet, I could dry it, but I'm not going to. So I do want to get like stuff in the background. So I'm going to need this front, you know, this to be a little bit darker, but I think it's going to pop the painting. You know what I mean? It's going to be enough And see, I'm like going random. Whenever you're doing like grass or anything like that, always make sure that you aren't afraid to overlap, make them different sizes. Because that's what's going to give your painting the depth. All right, I am gonna have to wet my brush just a little because I want this to flow in here a little bit better. So basically, part of that rock is gonna get covered up, is what I'm doing right now. And then we can put another rock on this side. I'm gonna add a little bit of brown into that green, just so we can darken it up in here. Because I don't like how it's leaving like the canvas showing underneath. And I am gonna blend that rock out because I'm not liking how that was kind of looking in there. All right, so let's get some nice dark areas in here. By putting in this dark, then when we go back over, because I want that to be all filled in, but then we can highlight it and it will, it'll show up much better. Because you've got to have some dark in there in order for the light ones to really, really show. All right, I'm just gonna mix up a bunch more. And we're just gonna kind of go over some of those other ones. And I'm just gonna wet my brush just a little bit. And we're gonna just kind of pull down. I'm just trying to get that canvas to fill in. Most of it anyhow. All right. So we'll just get that all filled in like that. I'm gonna clean my brush. I am gonna grab a little bit of the yellow now. And this is just the cadmium light. So before I add the yellow, I'm gonna go back to just that, that blue-green color. And I'm just gonna kind of go over some of these darker ones with that green. Because that's going to give us another shade in there. Now I'm just going to pick up green. Oh, I got a little bit of blue in there, but that's okay. So I just mixed the yellow in with what was on my brush. Maybe even add a little bit of white. So we can... All right, you know what I'm gonna do? Hang on here. Because I'm not liking what my things are doing, I'm gonna switch over to a thicker angled brush. I'm gonna wet my brush. I'm gonna pick up just that green, and I'm just gonna try to get some like shaped ones. And I'm not gonna go down with all of them because I want some to be over and some under. But I think this is going to give me a little bit, because it's a little bit stiffer brush. So it's like, I'm just like not liking like those rough canvas show underneath. I'm not liking that at all. And I think it's just because the other brush, it wasn't firm enough to do this first layer. So we will just make more, that's all. And then we can, when we go over with our highlight colors, you know, then we can make it look like it's full. And I do want just a few like wispy bits. You know, it's like when anything, you get used to doing certain techniques with a certain brush, and then you change it up. Yeah, it doesn't always work. So I'm just going in with that lighter green now, and we'll start. Just getting some lights, some bright yellows, some, you know, a little bit maybe darker ones. I'm just picking more and more yellow each time I go in. I'm not adding any more of that green. And I'm just All right, let's wash this. And I'm going to pick up some brown. And we'll have to put a rock or something just in front here to set those plants down into the ground here a little bit. All right, I need just a little bit more of that darker brown. Because this definitely would be a little darker in this corner because we've got the shadows from that plant. And we'd have a shadow under this rock. There we go. That's looking pretty good. All right, Michelle, stop while you're ahead. Stop while you're ahead. And let's just pick up a little yellow. A little bit more than that. And the more different colors and layers that you put, the fuller that it looks. All right, so I'm gonna wash this brush. And let's see. What color do I want? Or do I not want to put that and just leave the greenery? That's the key. I don't know, I'm liking that. All right, let's put another rock in kind of over here a little bit. Maybe maybe we'll just make this kind of like a flatter rock. All right, I am going to take my palette knife though to highlight because I just highlight better that way. And this one would not be as bright because it's kind of being hidden by the grass. There we go. I'm gonna just put a little top on this. There we go. Okay. And then we will get a little bit of the white. A little bit of water, a little bit of that white. You know, because there would probably have been a little bit of water pooled up around these rocks, right? Okay. So I think what I'm going to do, instead of putting the wheat things that I was going to, I'm gonna try and add like a couple of botanical kind of leaves. So I'll do that small, and then and I will take some of the yellow. Not liking that. Hang on. And now don't know why. It is not filling in the way I want it to. There we go. Oh, I ruined it by doing that. All right, I'm just going to put some different size, different shaped leaves is what we're going to do now. And let's see. Just going to cover that one in the back. I'm not liking that. So we're just gonna pivot. Just want to smooth those out. And I put a little bit more of this green. Let's see. Put that one back over. All right, I'm going to try using that light green that we used in the ocean color. And then I can go back over and put like some more grass things over the top. I'll leave that one in the back because that one don't look too bad, but all right, so might as well put a few few throughout now, so it blends in. And we'll leave some dark. And take a little bit of that brown, make it darker. And let's see. Put one right in here. All right. So pick up some of that. And that way we're adding a little bit of that the ocean color into our plants. All right, so that's looking a little bit better. I'm liking that okay. And now let's get some of that green and some of the yellow. And let's see if we can... I'm just thinning that out because I want a few, like, kind of going over some of all right. I think that's looking okie dokie. I think I'm going to try and make a few little footprints. So I'm just taking a liner brush, watering it down a little bit, and then we're just going to take a little bit of the unbleached titanium. Just going to wipe that off. A little too much. am I struggling so much today, guys? All right. I haven't done footprints in a while, and that did not work. All right, so we'll just put our waves back in, and we're gonna call it. And of course now my water is all brown. But all right, guys, we are gonna call this one done. So this is very simple. It's just playing, getting different techniques in. Just wanted to add a little bit more contrasting colors here. All right, now I'm gonna sign this. And actually, what color am I gonna use? I'm going to use the green that I did the leaves with. There we go, guys. And this is an acrylic. I don't know if I mentioned that. So, let me show you up close. Another very simple but yet different painting. You could put some birds in the sky. I mean, there's still a lot we could do with it, but I'm going to leave it like that for now. Alrighty, guys. Have a great day. Bye.